Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday, and welcome to the Friday edition of Tea and Coffee with Paula and
Jay. Good morning, everybody. The week is over, but our job is not over. It's still going to be busy at least till Tuesday. And yeah, good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Friday. We got an excellent show for you today. We got Wiretap joining us, and oh boy, he's on fire when it comes to the Antifa coverage, exposés, and a whole bunch of other things. He's just rocking it. So you're going to enjoy today. I confirmed with him. It's a go. Let's get into how our days went yesterday. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It was a long day. Got lots of door knocking done in the afternoon, though. Great to meet our neighbors, literally our neighbors on our street, which is good to reconnect with some of them that we'd seen in the past. And yeah, and just meet the rest of the community. And then we had our meet and greet in the evening.
It was fun too, and the one project for the homestead, for those keeping track with your little bingo card, we put signs on top of our vehicle, so as we drive around, you can see us and kind of identify us as we drive up driveways, and people know what's coming. So we'll get to that because I provided a picture. But Paula's right. We finally got to 253 on the range roads as we're making our way east, and oh boy, we have a shot. We have a shot because our community is fully aware of the private projects or personal projects being done. And we absolutely will make sure that we don't do stuff like that.
Yeah, they're not fans of that.
Yeah, they're not fans of that.
They're not fans of that.
No. And what I'm getting into is because we're receiving far more information, more details and videos now of what the current councilor's up to. And that is trying to connect 54, Range Road 54 to 55. Which is right over top of a creek ravine, like right on it.
Lots of bodies of water along the entire length that we've seen footage. And it would just be, to me, like environmentally, I don't even know how that'd be possible, but engineering wise, they're not for it because it would be incredibly expensive over and above what the current quote would be to kind of redirect the road away from the bodies of water. And what's the number again? 1.5?
I heard it's $1.5 million extra to do it right there. And there's a couple of problems, not just the environmental one, maintenance, safety, and the most important one is need. Nobody needs it except one person wants it because it will be a shorter distance for him to move his farming operations and cattle and equipment from one pasture to another. That's quite literally what the neighbors are talking about. They're fully aware. In fact, it becomes a safety issue. One neighbor let us know that by adding that creates a new route for thieves to take away from the community, like another exit, because currently there's one exit from some of the major thefts, and now there'll be two exits. So the RCMP even would have to double up to try and catch these guys. There's a different route for them to get away. So even neighbors that say, not only do we don't need it as a community, it's actually going to cause more problem with crime because it gives them another way to escape as they're trying to deal with the crime. It's sad, but here's the good news. The community is very aware. They're very aware, and they're upset, and word gets around quick around here. So that's definitely something that we will ensure isn't on our special projects list, because the councilor gets a special project list when they come and say, hey, when you come to council, the council says, hey, so what's the major projects that you want to work on? That's number one on his list. The second thing is when we went north on 53, like, geez, guys, you really should be high integrity. I would highly recommend anybody that gets into office be high integrity because your community watches and pays attention. North on 53, there's this large industrial type building going up, a whole bunch of large bay doors that looks like for large trucks. This is not something that happens in the area. This is agricultural, this is farming, this is ranching, this is rural. There's no large operation that just gets put up. Talking to the neighbors, they don't even know what it is. All they know is it's a massive eyesore. It's a big concern, especially for the traffic on the road, because clearly if these are large trucks, some sort of maintenance service, something, we don't know.
Whatever,
it's going to be a concern for the people along 53 north of 616, and they're upset. They're upset. We've worked hard with the council or a councilor to try and find out more information on that because it's in our neighborhood. It's like literally just down the road from us, and people want answers, but there's no permits. For some reason, this thing went up without permits, and people understand that that's wrong too. So, 53 and 54 We learned a lot of information from the neighbors there. They're upset, and they were kind of glad to see someone's running against the current councillor. So, yeah, we're going to continue to do that. So if you're on 52, 51, 50, in the 40s, and we got to jump back to some of the 60s to get done before Monday, but you'll now see our vehicle with some signs on top.
Yep.
So your dogs, when they greet us, you know why we're there, and we're looking forward to having more conversations. Last night was good. So we went to Salt and Pepper to meet with several members of our community, some familiar faces and some new ones. How was that for you?
Oh, it was great. Great. First of all, shout out to Noelle and Grace at Salt and Pepper for giving us the space so we could have our little meet and greet. Great food, great people, and really a staple in our little Breton community. So shout out to them. But it was great. We had some dinner beforehand. We were joined by some friends. We were also joined by a lovely couple who are viewers of the show and supporters of our campaign, who not only we've met and greeted them, but they also joined us at the Buck Creek event we had day before yesterday, and then they came out again to join us. So we really do appreciate the support and knowing that, you know, our members of our community are really behind us with regards to what we're trying to achieve and help happen in Breton. So shout out to you guys. You know who you are, and hopefully you're watching right now. But thanks to you and your wife. But yeah, meeting other members, people I didn't know. Jason's met some of them before, some were new faces, but to at least get to hear the real questions and concerns that they have, because that's the whole point of the meet and greet. It's not just say, hey, I'm Paula Levine. It's a case of, hello, Paula Levine, what do you want to try and do? Well, the school board trustee, Jason, what do you want to try and do for council? And then again, hear their concerns, because the more people we meet, the more issues we realize that are out there, the more concerns people have, and that we can be better rounded ourselves to know and work to address and try and find answers for.
Weed control, dust control, pothole control. These all came up a lot last night. Some of the people in our area, what they do is they take it upon themselves to deal with the weeds. They don't wait for the county to do it because it causes them to have weeds in their fields. They do hay, they do straw, and they don't want weeds in that, especially when you're selling the bales at the end of the year. You can't really go out and pick it all out. So dealing with it themselves has been something several people have told us when we stopped by their place, and that's got to stop. Like, we got to take this seriously. You can't mow at the end of the year when everything's seeding and blowing around. It's got to be done way before that. So to hear how proactive people have to be in order to control weeds is sad to hear at this stage. So Division 6, you're definitely going to get a lot more attention and a lot more fight on all roads, not just 474 between 54 and 55. There's going to be far more attention on the entire division. And then, of course, parents and school was a huge topic, like a huge topic. Paula was there for a good half an hour addressing all the questions there. So, yeah, go ahead and talk about that one.
Yeah, people had a lot of questions regarding the relationship with the teachers, talking about the strike, talking about the books, speaking about ideology. So we really addressed all that, because I'm for education and being in school, not ideology or politics. I'm certainly for not having sexually explicit books in the school libraries. They don't need to be in there. If you want that, you actually go order it through your regular library. But the school libraries, the books that the children have access to day in, day out while in the school building, do not need to have sexually explicit content. They could have coming of age stories, biology, all that type of thing. But nothing sexually explicit. If I can't read it in front of a group of adults without them blushing, then children shouldn't be reading it from 8 till 3.
And a big shout out to Shane Blosky from Division 5.
Yeah.
He's running as a counselor there, so as a candidate, he came out to join us as well. After we did our interview yesterday with Bart, Lori, and Becky, he reached out and he says, "Oh, I'd love to come on." We invited him on, but he was dealing with some escaped cattle. And this is the things that will happen out here. And I told him, you should just put your signs on the cattle, so when they escape, at least they're doing some marketing for you. But he joined us last night to share some the concerns from his riding as well, because of course our roads run up into his side of things. So we will have to cooperate and work together. And we're already demonstrating on how the new council, if we're fortunate enough to be elected, are already looking forward to the future and working together and cooperating. So thank you to Shane, who joined us as well. So yeah, we had basically a full house. And then a couple showed up to eat, and then they kind of got pulled into the conversation as well. So they got to share some of their concerns as new residents to Brazeau County. They can't vote because in Netherlands you can't be dual citizens, so they can't vote. But maybe one day Alberta will earn their trust as a nation. And by the way, that came up a lot, whether or not Alberta should separate. There's a ton of support. And this happened in Buck Creek as well. When I asked who's interested in an independent Alberta, at least 3/4 said yes. And then here, I don't think one said no. I think everybody was looking forward to that prosperity and that work to provide for the future generations. And I do see our guest is in the back studio, so hang out for a bit. We'll bring you on at the 9:30 for you, Mark. But yeah, we're going to get into the news shortly. Anything else about the last couple of days you want to bring up?
Just as a thank you to everyone who took the time to turn up to come and meet the Levines, which is what we extended the invitation to. Yeah, come meet us, get to know us, and I hope you took away information that made you more comfortable with who we are and why we're running and what we stand for, and share it out. And for anyone from locally to across Alberta, Monday, October 20th, please go out and vote.
And also shout out to the Breton Booster. It's working. A lot of people are learning about who we are through that. And we're going to have to drive around this morning to go check our signs because it was quite windy last night. So yeah, we're very proactive. So we're going to get out there and make sure our signs are up in the right direction and not bothering a farmer's field. So we'll get into that. All right. So the news, we do have some stuff to catch up on from yesterday. And of course, WiretapMedia made the news for us yesterday as well, too. So here we are. Okay. So we're going to get into this more directly with him in a moment. But Andy No, if you don't know who Andy No is, we covered it briefly yesterday. He is an independent journalist covering all these stories. He's been doing it for a while, and he's taken the hits and the beats by doing it. And he got invited to the White House by Trump and his team to go ahead and start exposing some more of the information about Antifa and his experiences with it. As you should know by now, if you're watching the show, Antifa is designated as a terrorist organization in the U.S., but Canada political classes aren't touching this one. We are. Wiretap is. There's a couple others that I've known, like Andy Lee. I've been known about this for quite some time. We need to take this seriously. But it was actually a very vicarious honor. So through my buddy Wiretap, I was honored that Andy No recognized his work and is sharing it and reposting it. So kudos to Wiretap for getting this out there, getting Andy's attention, because that just exposes, at least Canada's taking it seriously. Some of our journalists are taking it seriously. That might be helpful going forward as politicians need to catch up on this one. Another shout out to our friend Corey Morgan, who is, he's addressing the teacher strike. It's a big thing here in Alberta. It's still ongoing. Doesn't look like there's going to be an end to this anytime soon. It might go on for a little while here. The Western Standard puts out a post. Alberta opens parents' payment portal to offset cost of teacher strike. And Corey's highlighting here, let's really offset the cost of teacher strike by opening a couple hundred non-union charter schools. There's a lot of concern, and there's two sides to this, maybe 3 or 4 sides to this. But whether or not the union, the teacher association, should have maybe addressed this in the summer before school started, using the children as leverage against parents to try and get your message isn't going over well with many parents and the media, because you really could have done some negotiations, settled some issues, worked with the province through the summer. And now I'm not putting any blame on the association because this is a tough issue. But the question that came up a lot last night was, why don't they do this sooner in the year so that come school time, things are good to go? But, some people highlighted that would remove leverage. I think it's unfortunate. But as somebody who's running for school board, you certainly had some input on this one.
Yeah, I did. And it's as I've kind of shared from my own personal experience, when I started homeschooling our boys, I really guess March 2020, and then officially in September 2020. It's difficult. I only had to teach 2 boys. They're my sons. I love them dearly, but you actually have to realize what it is like to teach children. And more importantly, as a teacher, you've got to find the best method in order to teach them so that every day it's not an issue. Every day they want to sit down and learn. And a lot of teachers don't have that flexibility. They're not dealing with a couple of their own kids. They're dealing with a classroom. So it's tough. I appreciate the direction that some of the teachers want to go in with regards to, they just want to focus on education, but they also need the resources, the support in order to do that. And according to the unions and and the associations, they're not receiving it. A very mixed bag of messages we're even seeing online, because even some teachers are speaking out anonymously and they're not in agreement with their union. They're not in agreement with their associations.
What everybody does agree, though, is the children should be in school learning.
Yeah.
Full stop. So province, association, boards, the schools got to step up the game, and you got to focus on making sure the kids are in school with a good education and good curriculum. So looking forward to you being on one of those boards. Because one of the good things about Paula is she'll be bringing back the information. Some of the questions that were brought up, she can actually take it to the board and then bring it back to the community. So I'm looking forward to getting some more insight that way. You'll kind of be like our little mole in what's going on in the education
well, here's
system.
the interesting thing. The information is put out there, but it's more of a case of our parents taking the time, and is that information getting out truly to the public so they can get access to it? And the answer would be no.
Okay. Now let's move on, because we've got a lot of things to cover here. So Gov Corrupt, he is actually kind of highlighting something that a lot of us feel. Stop blaming Trump for everything. Absolutely. And this is the mantra out of the Liberal and the current government. They literally, and even Doug Ford out of Ontario, who's a conservative in name only. Let's be clear about that. Stop blaming Trump for everything. He's not the one responsible for shutting down Canadian businesses during COVID or banning people from the economy. He also didn't hike these taxes or froze bank accounts. He's not passing speech censorship laws or taking away firearms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's not doing the things that are actually harming Canada. He may be doing what's best for the U.S., and in some cases, if Canada was not cooperating well as a good neighbor or trade partner, it will hurt. But that's not why Canada is on a downward spiral. We've been on a downward spiral way before even Trump took office, even in 2016. Biden was in there. You didn't see them blaming Biden for a single thing. Stop pointing fingers. And I agree with the sentiment. Let's be responsible adults. Let's manage our own business and stop blaming the other ones. And stop trying to pass the buck. It's just really, really annoying. Thanks to Gov Corrupt on that one. Mario, he was on the show a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago or so. He's breaking some news that the gun buyback program itself might be in trouble, which is good news because they need to stop trying to go after the guns. But he's got a tip that the program may be ending soon. So they didn't really get this off the ground. There's no support within Canada for this. This might be something that the politicians thought was a good idea, but Canadians do not, because you're targeting the actual law-abiding citizens. You're not targeting criminals. You're not going to be doing anything to make the street safer by going after farmers and sport shooters and hunters. That's just not how this works. We've known this for a long time. This is about disarming all Canadians, not fighting crime. But it seems like Canadians are pushing back hard enough that maybe this is going to just be a flop. So thank you to Mario for sharing that tip. Our daily update out of the Universal Ostrich Farm. They had a chaplain there. So I don't know if some of them are feeling guilty and need some spiritual uplifting. This will be the RCMP side of things. Maybe they're starting to realize they are kind of being leveraged in a position that they don't want to be in. Maybe CFIA is doing something wrong here. Either case, Daisy is reporting this is at least the second time that he saw a chaplain walking around talking to the RCMP. And it's good to see that some of them are thinking about their spirit and their well-being. Maybe they do need a little bit of uplifting. So thanks to Daisy for his Zoom camera to be able to get these kind of shots. And to Dave Freedom for providing the camera to Daisy. So cool guys.
Yeah,
that's teamwork. Alberta is getting a new license plate. This isn't one of the options, but it certainly should be. There's a few options you can choose from because I guess this is going to be a new look for Alberta. But maybe it should be the nation of Alberta.
Yeah,
strong and free. So I put that out there, having a little bit of fun, but I seriously mean this. I think this is Alberta's future. And if we are looking to do something like change the plate, maybe let's go ahead and highlight how we are a nation of Alberta, or soon to be.
I'm curious, though, why we're putting funding towards getting a new plate, though.
Don't worry. We can do multiple things. It's not so much funding towards a plate. You still have to produce plates. So changing the background or going all white or something like that isn't a big deal. A lot of people have highlighted, why we focus on that, but not the teachers. The government must be able to do multiple things at once. So there you go. So get involved, click a link on a website, and you can have your say on which one to get. This is disgusting with a capital D.
Yeah.
22 minutes, which is the satire, political satire arm of the CBC. The Jimmy Kimmel version, where they can just try and have their political messaging and try and wrap it up as comedy. We support comedy, but they're actually making fun of the death of the ostriches here. So CBC has been bringing experts on to say that they need to die. And now on the comedy side of things, or at least under the veil of comedy, they're laughing about the death of the ostriches, which is disgusting. Even if you think that this is necessary for trade and to stamp out because of avian flu, you should still have an empathetic heart towards the loss of life. They don't. They're trying to turn the ostriches into some sort of attacking, killing things that need to die. They're really, really disgusting. So here's just one more nail. And boy, that coffin is full of nails now for defunding the CBC.
Yeah.
This is state media and propaganda. And it's disgusting. It's not even funny at all. So sad. A lot of people picked this one. So thanks to Ryan, Viva, and many others who found this appalling.
Yep.
We certainly find it appalling. It's life. Whether you think it needs to be stamped out or not, it's life. Dean Blundell, we used to listen to him. And then during COVID, he posted about me being a quackpot anti-vaxxer when I wasn't even talking about anything like that. So there's something going on where if you come out and start chatting, becoming vocal, have a bit of an audience, there's some sort of memo that goes out to people like this to come at you. Because I didn't do anything. I didn't say anything to him. Just boom, Dean Blundell made a post about me. And that was sad because I used to, prior to all this craziness, listen to him in the GTA. He's going after Chris Barber here. And the post here is absolute defamation. This is an example, it should be in the textbooks of law schools, of slander. And I do hope something comes of this, because what he wrote here is completely false. It's meant to go after the reputation of Chris Barber, and it's done in public. So this is the definition of slander. He wrote, "You were convicted for showing up to Ottawa with a noose, shut down the city borders, and use kids as human shield, brah. Maybe sit down, any hate and division conversations from now on." So gross. So gross. So Stacy here highlighted not one thing in that post is even true. Chris Barber did not show up in Ottawa with a noose. He did not shut down Ottawa or any borders. And Chris Barber did not use children as human shields. Gee, I wonder why Dean's fact-checking app never got off the ground. Disgusting.
Absolutely.
This is again kind of like the 22 minutes. Something's going on. I suspect there's this paid group who receives these memos from time to time that says do this or go after this or highlight this or something, because a normal person would be worried about defamation.
Yeah,
but something's wrong with this guy. He's not worried about defamation at all. He came out with this. There was no noose. This is the first time I've ever seen that word used in relation to Ottawa.
A flag, but to say a noose, like that's the thing. And even then, Chris did not come up with any flag, and we all have suspicions of where that flag came from to begin with.
And no city was shut down. Ambulances always were running. The buses were running. This testimony came out in court. The truth is, this is all BS. And Chris had nothing to do with borders at any time. He was always in Ottawa, and there was never children used as human shields. So, Dean, let's analyze this for a moment here. Human shields to what? So what are you saying? There was some sort of attack coming towards them? Some armed people coming towards them that you needed a shield, and then they grabbed the children to
grab
be
the
shield?
children.
What is he talking about? During the crackdown by the police started on the 19th of February, there were no children in that audience. Everybody understood how bad things were getting, and the children were gone. This guy, hopefully he's dealt with in a court of law, defamation. I don't know if there's anything left to sue him for, but this is gross.
Yeah, not only was it talking points, but incorrect talking points he brought up. Like none of it made any sense.
Well, that's what defamation is.
Yeah.
It's when you tell a lie publicly to defame somebody. So, textbook, this should be in the textbooks at some point. Do want to give you all the heads up. Chris Barber will be joining us. We confirmed this morning. He's going to join us Saturday for at least an hour, the first hour, as we talk about his sentencing and basically how his life is now since then. He wanted some time to kind of get home and relax and kind of catch up on sanity for a bit, because for a while there, he wasn't sure if he was coming home right away. But he is going to join us on Saturday for the first hour at least.
Great.
So boo on Dean, yay on Barber. Mia this is a great video. So go to my timeline, check it out. Go to Mia, give her a follow. Here's an example of a doctor in the middle here who has a lot of weight in his reputation and his career. And he was caught signing a letter that he admits now that he didn't read. This letter that has his name and signature on it said that medical intervention is necessary for gender affirming care, which is absolutely not true. You shouldn't be doing that. And the exact words were, let me get it here, medically necessary. Yeah. So in the letter he signed, he said it was medically necessary. Now in this video, Mia puts it to him and then he denies ever using those words. And the way she framed it was perfect, because this is how you defuse the situation. You keep the person on the screen and then you bring the facts forward. And she said, well, let me fact check myself. Not fact check you, but fact check myself. So, hey, I could be wrong. And he was all open to that. He's like, absolutely, fact check yourself. And then she read the sentence and he's like, oh, I didn't read that letter fully. And that's not a sentence I wrote. And someone else added that. I didn't read it. I'm a dope for signing it. Good job, because this was really exposing maybe what is going on. Maybe some of these people are not reading what they sign and endorsing and supporting. Maybe they are a bunch of dopes, but their credibility is being used by the media and others as evidence that this is necessary. So congratulations on Mia for being calm and smart about how she dealt with this and getting that information out there.
Yep. And I've gone ahead and put the link to that feed in the chats for you guys.
Awesome. And we're getting there. We're getting there right on time too. Here's what our little project for the homestead was yesterday. I built this 2 days ago and then attached it to our vehicle yesterday. It's solid.
Yeah, you test ran it.
110 kilometers an hour, not a problem. So as we're finishing up our door knocking over the next few days, you'll see us on top. So then you don't have to wonder who's coming. It's pretty clear who's coming.
Yes, when we pull into someone's driveway, we kind of position ourselves so at least if anyone opens the door, looks out the window, they can see us. So it's okay, you know who these
Always
people
be
are.
marketing.
Yes.
Always let them know who you are. And by the way, these signs are working. Several doors when we go up to them, like, oh yeah, we've seen your signs. And Paula even cracked a joke. And we have legs too, because on the signs you don't get to see us there.
Yes, we are the bodies behind the faces that you see.
Yeah. So thanks to the Breton Booster, our signs, basically the effort we're putting in is working. So
yes, and you know what? There's another shout out to Banners in Edmonton.
Don't give away our secret, because the others may use it, but Banners was there.
Yeah, Banners with a Z. In Edmonton are the ones who got the signs, and excellent, very affordable. Even though it is election season, they got these signs out for us like really quickly,
almost with hours notice sometimes.
Yeah, they're good people. So shout out to Banners in Edmonton.
And don't forget Inkpot.
Yes, so I was going to do this on Mondays, like a summary of everyone.
As well.
Inkpot Press in Drayton Valley have been super duper for us, even for the federal election. Like if you want to get some stuff printed quickly, Joseph, Heather, and the team there, you know, they're really, really willing to work with you and help you get it done. And so shout out to Inkpot Press, Drayton Valley.
Yeah, they're gonna need a day off after all the work.
And and then mine as well, the Drayton Valley Bakery. I think there's this one that's really well known in Drayton Valley, but the bakery there for our delicious honey donuts.
There's a couple left.
Yeah,
I'm gonna eat those.
Yeah, I didn't have one yesterday, so I'll have one. I'll have one tonight.
And as we wrap up here, right on time. So thanks to Liz Churchill, who's providing some good information about what's going on in Florida. So there's a Florida bill that would require medical examiners to include recent vaccination history when investigating sudden deaths of infants and children. If passed, State Bill 188 would allow the state to systemically collect data necessary to determine whether vaccines may be linked to unexpected deaths in young people, according to the bill's author, Mija Han, chapter leader for Children's Health Defense Florida. So 100% Detective Helen Gruss deserves an apology now. Time is always on our side when you're on the truth and doing the right thing. I sent her this morning. She was very pleased. And she did an interview recently. So we'll see if that door's open now. But Detective Helen Gruss deserves an apology. State level bills are being passed to ensure that this is being done. And that's all she did. She was just trying to see if there was a vaccination involved in the situation around the death of children. It wasn't pointing fingers, accusing, or trying to make anybody feel bad about anything. It was quite literally just collecting the facts.
Yeah, and the fact that the template was already there, it was part of the investigation
In
too.
Ontario,
You asked these questions.
Yep, that was on it pre-COVID. The SIDS documentation asked for mother and children's vax status, and that was being skipped. But here's just another example of sanity kicking in, and Detective Helen Gruss was right all along. All right, so we're 1 minute past. So let's go ahead and bring in the man of the half hour here. Morning. How are you?
Morning. How are you guys? Is my sound okay?
And yeah, you sound great. The plaid looks wonderful too.
Oh, thanks, dude. Appreciate it.
Congratulations. Great work. I'm not even going to say recently. You've been doing this kind of work for quite some time. You kind of took a little bit of a break and then came back. But boy, have you ever come back. Antifa is a major issue that you're drawing attention to. Digital IDs, global programs. Like, we can really just go through the list of all the hot, important topics that Canadians aren't talking about. You're talking about it. So thank you very much for doing that. And Andy, were you a little surprised to see a little bit of attention from him?
Yeah, I was kind of blown away. And
vicariously through you, so was I. Like, right on.
Yeah. So yeah, it definitely gave me a bit of a boost in terms of like view on that particular post. But yeah, it was something to see that at least reach its way into the US, so people can see that this guy's a pathological liar. Like, every interview, he just contradicts himself, and everything he said 7 years ago is completely opposite of what he's saying today. And I'm glad that they're getting that information.
100%. And yeah, we can jump into a whole bunch of these. Like, you did a big thread on Karim Assad, on her work around the Hategate affair and how that has been debunked, but yet people still haven't really received that information. Digital IDs, you're spending some time paying attention to Danielle Smith, what she's doing in Alberta when it comes to that digital app, that health app, or whatever it's called, the Alberta My Wallet, I think it is. And of course, Antifa. Let's start with Antifa, because Trump has designated them as a terrorist organization. A lot of the media down in the US says, hey, they don't exist. They don't exist. It's just an ideology. And then here in Canada, like crickets, you're getting nothing out of the political classes here. So let's start there. Are they an organization that needs attention and be broken up?
Well, like, I think we have to tread lightly in terms of, like, they may not have an organizational structure, but they have all the elements to be an organization, if that makes sense. So they're a lot like ISIS or these terrorist networks that, like, they don't have like a sign-up sheet, but they're able to radicalize people and create cells and large groups in different areas through like the mis and disinformation that they spread about right-wing politics. And that Dr. Antifa, or Mark Bray, he made it very clear in some older interviews that all people right of the spectrum should be treated as Nazis because you want to prevent the uprising. So even if they aren't Nazis, but they're friends with, like, this person or that person, you have to treat them as a Nazi because to prevent this. And so I don't know. To me, I think it's safe to say, like, they are an organization. Well, yeah, like they are. They what organization doesn't have funding, right? Like, they have legal funding. They're So yeah, it's just like, it's a strange thing. Like, they're selling this whole V for Vendetta, like it's an idea, you know what I mean? But it's really like, like a terrorist network, more or less, how they operate.
Now, one of the comparisons I made very early is technically mafia is not an organization. You would have branches, or you would have areas where they create a mafia and they have a family and then they do their things. But if you said we're going to take down mafia, people can make the argument mafia is not an organization. You can't sign up to that. There's no pledge to the mafia. There's chapters. That's really how it works. And I think the U.S. kind of feels the same way, because they're using the RICO laws to go after Antifa, which means going after the funding, find out where the funding is and who has the desire to ensure that this is going on. And right at the top of that list is a name that we've been aware of for a long time, George Soros. He's at the top of that list the U.S. released. The Tides Foundation's on there. A bunch of international, European, a billionaire from Europe is on there. So look, under the RICO laws that the U.S. has, you don't have to have an organization. You just have to have people working together in concert or in conspiracy to do things that are bad. And then under finance and the financial means mechanisms, you can tie them together. So there's a lot of that happening now. I've been noticing out of the U.S. So on that level, at least on the RICO level, they might be able to get them.
Yeah, I think that's, you probably summed it up best, is it's organized crime. It really is. And they're using what they believe, like, and this isn't even populist, this isn't even a populist movement, right? This is they have this idea that, they're creating a populist movement through paying these individuals, but that's not how populism works, right? The Freedom Convoy was a populist movement. And I guess we can argue like the structure and all that kind of stuff, but in reality, it just drew a bunch of Canadians to a similar cause.
Yeah, there was nobody behind the scenes that said to Barber, Leach, King, Benz, Belton, all of them, here's a bunch of money, go to Ottawa, do this, and when you get there, there's going to be pallets of bricks, and then go throw them at all the buildings and the windows. None of that existed.
I don't know. Someone had to rent the bouncy castles. Like, come on.
Fair enough. Maybe Big Bouncy Castle was behind this. But no, you're making a good point, because there was no pre-organization to go and do anything. It was very organic. And if it turned into an organization after, in order to have like consolidated voices and a push on the legal front and have some legal trying to negotiate with the government or the cities, then yeah, okay, totally get it. But another thing about this is organized crime, but it's violent organized crime. And when you go and try to label somebody as a Nazi, your dog whistle there is they need to be eliminated. Because remember what the Nazis were going to do? Remember what happened to all those people during World War II? So it's a dog whistle to eliminate the people. Charlie Kirk, you can argue, was the victim of one of these dog whistles, because radicalization, Nazi, fascist was engraved on one of the alleged casings of the shooter. This is what it leads to. Now, you've seen Andy Ngo get attacked. You've seen, even in Canada, Chris Stacey got attacked by the Black Blocs or something like that, he calls them. So they're violent. They're not just organized crime that are just moving illegal activities. They're violent as well.
Yeah, they are. Like the Black Bloc movement is like an offshoot of Antifa, right? Like they're like the people that go and stir up shit, like they vandalism and that sort of stuff, and like they all interact with one another, which makes this even more worrying, because what's happening is they're also, because they're intermingling with these worker unions and disenfranchised Canadians, they're also radicalizing them at the same time, right? And they're growing their numbers. And this is the sort of stuff that people from the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, Barbara Perry, Bernie Farber, Evan Balgord, that's what they were blaming right-wing conservatives of doing, is indoctrinating people into these radical extreme ideas, when realistically they're just, Canadian ideas. They're just, so it's almost like they kind of flip the script, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Dr. Freud called that projection. You accuse the other side of doing what you're doing. because first you understand that people could do that because you're doing it, and then you put it onto them. So they're radical extremists. Well, take a look at what you're doing. You're actually the radical extremist by labeling traditional Canadian values and not ideology, but identity as something that needs to be stopped. You also named the Three Stooges there, so thank you very much on that one. Barbara Perry actually testified in the Chris Carver, Tony Olenek pre-trial, and she literally said, if you're any of the following, then you are an extremist, ideologically motivated violent extremists. So that's the term that they're really trying to define here in Canada. And what she listed off was white, male, Christian, against the government, conservative. And if you looked around that courtroom when she was doing this, every single person in that room, from the sheriff to the judges to the court staff to everybody in the galley, qualified, according to her, like qualified. There's a lot of conservatives, there's a lot of Christians, there's a lot of white, there's a lot of male. And in the end, the judge told the prosecutor, this is not going to work. This is not going to work. Don't bring her forward as an expert. So she did not end up testifying. But we had to sit through that as she claimed to be an expert on this and almost became an expert witness during that trial.
And that's what makes, where they say our ideas are dangerous, those are dangerous ideas, right? Because you even see, a lot of these left-leaning, like white people, like even in my own community or others, who believe that like anyone right of their thinking is like are neo-Nazis because of this type of, the way they frame it. And like, I can't like ignore the fact that a lot of these ideas come from Mark Bray's, hand guide or anti-fascist hand guide. Like a lot of these ideas come from that book. And if you look at the way Evan Balgord has talked in interviews, and you look at how Barbara Perry has spoken in interviews, and even Bernie Farber, they use these same similar tactics that are outlined and described in these books. And really, it's just designed to shut down right-wing politics and shut down ideas that that don't align with them. And in reality, it's a far left like communist movement. It is communism. What they're proposing is the complete abolishment of capitalism and bringing in a state function system. And, they ignore the fact that, they like to say stuff like, fascism has been responsible for so much violence and death. But yet they ignore like the Bolsheviks that like executed their political rivals, even liberals, right? Like people on the left side of the spectrum, once they had no use for them anymore, they executed them. So they ignore like Stalin, or they say, oh, we don't believe in Stalinism, or we don't believe in Maoism, but we all know where this ends up. And they still think that this idea is going to work. And the truth is communism is responsible for more death than fascism ever was.
Correct. And when you actually look at it, it's a very selfish ideology, because that ideology is I should receive, others should take care of me, I should receive from the state. It's a very selfish ideology. Capitalism, conservatism, it's all about taking care of your family and your community and making sure that you can provide for multiple generations. The other ones, they don't even think about generations. They think about recruiting the young, but they don't think about providing and securing and creating next generations, which is very, very sad. Canadian Anti-Network is one that's been exposed quite a bit because they've done grants with the government. Over $1 million have been provided to them. And in the description of who they are, they flat out, they don't even deny it. At least they're telling the truth about that, that they go after far right and right groups. This is the way they put it. They didn't say we're after hate from all sides, or we're just after hate in Canada in general, implying that it's for all sides, like extremism on either side. No. They were very clear to put in the word right-leaning or far right into their description, and they got funding. So this is where I think we have a major problem here in Canada that needs to be addressed, because Canadian Anti-Network absolutely has bragged about, provided the books of, and has some associations to Antifa. So now with the U.S. designation, I think the Canadian government really needs to say, "Uh-oh, maybe we are providing grants to the wrong organization. We shouldn't be doing this in Canada," and start cutting those ties. What are your thoughts there? And do you think the Canadian government should take an additional step, like the U.S. government, and classify Antifa as a terrorist organization and take some actions against anybody that identifies as Antifa?
Well, the problem is we don't have the same sort of RICO laws here in Canada to kind of go after an organization like this. But what we could do is work with our partners south of the border and open up their RICO laws, right? We know our government's not going to do that. And I do want to just say that the Canadian Anti-Hate Network just doesn't like align with Antifa. Right from Evan Balgord's mouth, he says he is Antifa, right? Like they sell this whole thing as just an idea, but these ideas are absolutely dangerous and it's radicalizing people. So, which means, so he's more or less admitting that, Antifa, or sorry, the Canadian Anti-Hate Network is a far left socialist communist network that's actually, and we've seen this throughout history, is that, I think it's called the salami tactic, where they pose themselves as like helping society, but they're really destabilizing society. I think this happened in Hungary, where they created destabilization through economics, social systems, and all that sort of stuff, so that people were begging for communism. And that's what this is really starting to look like, through and through. So it's the organization's very, very dangerous, and more Canadians need to be aware of their influence on our parliament. Like, for example, like our gun legislation, a lot of these ideas come from the board members of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. Along with Bill C8, C9, C2, this all comes from the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. So these are very state-controlled systems, and this is exactly what communism does, right? Is they create this structure so that you keep people in line, and we're watching this, in our own parliament, and the influence that these guys have is absolutely disgusting, and the way they disguise themselves on top of that.
Yeah, and politicians are pretty weak when it comes to this, because what do you mean you are for hate? We are called the anti-hate. What do you mean you're for fascism? We are called anti-fascism. So if you're against us, that means you're for the other side. And that's what they do with the names. So they use that as a way to force politicians and others to kind of take their side. And one of the things you highlighted there is we don't have RICO in Canada. If we did, the Liberal Party and other parties might actually be illegal, because what they're doing is making deals and things like that. So maybe that's why they don't want the RICO laws. But here's another thing, Jason. If there is a ostrich farm and there's suspected avian flu, because of our international partners, we'll kill them. So with international types of agreements, we go and try and kill ostriches, but we want to take down what's designated as a terrorist organization. Whether or not we have RICO laws or not, we should be working closer with our partners to go ahead and make sure that we don't become a security risk to them by harboring what they defined as terrorists. Even on that level, like if you truly believe that the ostriches have to be called because of international trade and agreements, why in the world aren't you behind trying to get rid of Antifa in Canada because of international security? We should stop being hypocritical here. CBC is calling for the call of the ostriches, but they're not even touching Antifa.
Well, what's interesting too is when it came to the Proud Boys, which is another organization that was started by a comedian, and it was just a joke at first, but it gained some traction because a lot of people felt like they were not being heard in the United States. Soon as they were designated a terrorist organization, Canada followed suit immediately. Like our Liberal government followed in that direction, instantaneously with that same decision. And the reality is how prevalent was the Proud Boys in Canada? They had no real footprint here in Canada, but that didn't stop the government from shutting down right dissent and traditional conservative values. It's like they're slowly like inching us further and further, like to the left. I guess it would be this way for everybody else, but you know what I mean? It just seems like even our political spectrum is moving that way. And, you know, in terms of IMVE, I'm not anti-government. I know we need government, but what I am is anti our political system, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, it
yeah,
does. And I'm anti this government and what they're
yeah,
doing, not anti-government. I'm running for council. So obviously it
of
can't
course,
be
yeah.
against government, right? So, but I absolutely believe good government is something that's necessary, not controlled government. And now we can start getting into a conversation about, well, is our government controlled? Is there another level? Globalists, digital IDs, agendas, SDGs, all of this stuff.
Other countries.
Pushing Canada to do stuff. And before we jump to that, the Proud Boys, we've had some guests on the show which highlighted how the Proud Boys became a buffer between Antifa and journalists and regular Canadians and would actually protect. So why in the world? Like, the Proud Boys was never accused of harming anybody. They didn't storm any buildings. They didn't go after politicians. They didn't ruffle feathers. They literally became a buffer between Antifa and the public and journalists. And the government took that away. But now, the good news is they got rid of the organization, but there's still good people out there that will get your six if you're out there in the craziness.
You got to remember too, though, the way Antifa describes their violence is in self-defense, right? You know, in Mark Bray's book, he calls it preemptive self-defense. So, which is a total, you know, just a total destruction of legal terminology. And basically, he's trying to tell people, because fascism is so dangerous and because there are so many neo-Nazis in society, we have to attack them first because they're already attacking us with their ideas, which is like thought crime.
Exactly. And Minority Report and other things that could be just around the corner. But preemptive self-defense is a term I also coined, and I didn't know that they wrote that in the book, during the Karbert-Olenek trial, because this is what the prosecution said that they are accused of doing. They didn't actually use self-defense against the police, but they would have if they were found themselves in that situation. So that would be called preemptive self-defense. In fact,
and
the Crown
see how dangerous these ideas are, is that even now our legal system is starting to use these ideas as arguments within courtrooms. And like, you see like what Chris Barber and Tamara Leach went through, and like some of the mis and disinformation that was shared in that trial about what was occurring in Ottawa is all based off of these same individuals that are creating like narratives and destabilizing social cohesion by spreading this information.
Yeah, and what the Crown actually was successful at doing was arguing in that trial that preemptive self-defense is illegal in Canada. If you want to be able to do that, there's a state below, or a country below us, that has that. So basically saying, if you want to be able to defend yourself, you need to move to the States. And then unfortunately, the jury agreed, because that's what they used as part of their conviction of guilty for weapons for dangerous purpose to the public peace. So they bought that preemptive self-defense argument by the Crown to go ahead and convict these guys. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, and I'm not trying to use sword in an ironic way here, but if that's what they're saying for Antifa or for Canadian Anti-Hate Network, is we are preemptive self-defense, that's actually now illegal in Canada. A jury agreed, and maybe they should be up on charges just like Karbert and Olenek were.
Yeah, it's just, I can't make sense of what's happening in Canada and how we're altering. You know, it's like, I call it, you know, I've kind of coined this like the Bachelor of Arts disease. Is like, you know, like when you go into a bar and you talk to that bartender, and you've lived in Ontario, so you know every waitress and a bartender has a Bachelor of Arts degree. And you know, they have these like pseudo arguments where they take snippets of what you say to alter the facts of, you know, the overall scope. And like, we're seeing that in everyday, like in our institutions, like in our legal system, like these arguments are being made that have no, you know, they have no weight to them. And like, people are getting dealt lawfare. Getting, I don't know what Chris and Tamara have spent on legal fees. Like, I don't know what the Coots 4 have spent in legal fees. And there's more Coots people that aren't really being recognized. And there are more people in the Freedom Convoy who are still facing trial that have been run up with all these legal fees. And based off of, like, I don't know, is it pseudoscience? Like, I guess it's like aligned with pseudoscience. It's like pseudo language. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, it makes sense when you study Marxism, because they use words and definitions to go ahead and push forward their ideology. It's meant to confuse, because a confused person usually doesn't stand up and fight. It takes someone with a clear mind and understanding to do that. So if you're confused and you believe men are women and men belong in the women's bathroom and in sports, then you're not going to be standing up fighting and stopping that kind of stuff. It's part of how Marxism spreads, is to confuse and then also make you dependent. So you're unemployed, you're not really doing anything, so maybe the government should hand out some money to you, take care of your rent, landlords shouldn't make a profit. Like, all of that is a slide towards socialism. But when you're confused and you don't know how to address the conversation or argument, that's how they shut it down as well. You confuse a third of the population, you scare a third of the population, and then you jail a third of the population. There you go. That's how you go ahead and bring in your ideologies.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's fair. Yeah, no, it's I don't know. I'm blown away that like, I guess, through your own research, what do you think is preventing people from seeing this the same way we see it? That's what I don't understand. Is it lack of education? Critical thinking? What's preventing society? That's what's the biggest puzzle piece that I haven't quite been able to understand yet.
Yeah, from my perspective, it's they're taking a knee to bullyism and name calling and cancelism. So they're very afraid of losing their jobs, being called out in public, even if they know they're right. This is why you have, like, the secret Trump voter. They don't talk about it in public, but they go put their X down. This is how you control the CEOs. This is how you control the whole organization. You infiltrate the HR department and you make your opinion publicly part of your employment. And then if you share anything that they deem, these little HR department people deem as inappropriate, and they're usually DEI hires and they focus that way, then you shut down the conversation under fear. There is so many cops, so many lawyers, so many nurses, so many doctors I've spoken to that say, hey, I know what's right, but I have a mortgage.
Yeah.
So they just, out of that kind of fear, they don't do it. The Detective Helen Gruses are the rare ones, the ones that actually are willing to say, hey, look, we got to investigate this. And she's close to, I think, 500,000 now dealing with this hearing against her for her job. Like, she may never get out of that hole that she's in, but that's how I think it is. You have a select few. And my example I keep bringing up is the U.S. women's soccer team. At one point in time, like, that whole team, except for 2 or 3 women, would take a knee for the injustices of the world. But over time, we learned that there was actually 1 or 2 people on the team who forced the others to take a knee, even though it was against what they believed. And it was just a small few who would stand up and not fight against it, but they were bullied like crazy and ostracized. So I think it's through bullying, cancelization, and targeted the emotions of people, because they're afraid and they have mortgages to pay.
I think the masses, though, for me, is media. Mainstream media has played a part.
Well,
The trust that people have in the media over the generations. And if your media is telling you to be scared, or the media is telling you don't listen to these people, listen to us, or this is the information you should trust in, I think that's what has kept a lot of the population asleep.
Well, that's the amplifier. So
Yeah.
that's the bullhorn. So you don't want to be on the front page of the CBC as a racist or transphobic or anything like that. And that includes politicians, because that's exactly what they're afraid of. That's why Bill C-4 had unanimous support when they didn't even read it.
Yeah, isn't it interesting that they promote bullying for their own ideas, but if you bully them, then they're all over the news, like saying, oh, my life is in danger.
Victimization.
Yeah, there's like this victimization of, but meanwhile, like, there are Canadians that, and I think Charlie Kirk is a good example, that situation in the United States. there are people on the right whose lives are really in danger because the people that they're radicalizing are mentally unstable people, right? It's like it reminds me of like the first Batman Begins, where like that guy uses the nut house to build his army. And that's exactly what Marxism and this communist revolution or radical social movement has done. Is I'm beginning to wonder if they like just sit outside these nut houses with flyers and go after homeless drug addicts. And I guess that's Andy pointed out, I shared a tweet from him yesterday. Apparently, one of the members in the Portland terror group, he was actually homeless, and they brought him in and they kind of used him to carry out like the violent stuff because he was mentally unstable and he had a drug problem.
100%. And now that we got rid of taking mental health seriously, closed down a lot of these facilities, they're out there and they're vulnerable too. And they're using all things like internet and other things to go and find people. If you said anything against like Polyab, they'll jump on you. Hey, so what else do you dislike? And how do you feel about, diversity for everybody? Like, oh, everybody should be treated equal. And then they start to migrate them. We had, it was on, I think, Fox News even, an Antifa person kind of whistleblowing. And they say, first they bring you in through this love and caring. And then they get very firm and strict with you and say, wow, now, if you want to go against us, we're going to make your life really difficult. So you now need to get out there and do the things that we direct you to do. So you can see how they bring you in and then they control you. So it's a pretty old system, by the way. They've been doing this since Roman times, like to go ahead and create militias and radical groups or radicalized groups. This has been around for a while. If you remember the Dark Ages, right? They were going after persecuting anybody that believed in science. They were shutting that down at one point. Anybody that believed in God, they were shutting that down at one point. Anybody who believed in a different God, they were shutting that down at one point. They've been doing this for a long time. It's just a new flavor of it. And frankly, they're far more capable and violent than ever before.
Yeah, I agree. We're witnessing it in real time. And to shut down civil discourse is something that's very concerning too, is because they don't want to risk, being outed or having their ideas pushed against, or like, if they're doing a live stream, at these protest events or whatever, and somebody catches them in the fallacy of their argument, like it could turn some of their members against them, and it likely would, because you look at even Mark Bray in his own interview with TVO. I didn't post the whole interview, but he couldn't even explain what fascism was, and this is supposed to be a historian and an expert on fascism, and he couldn't give an example. And I think we saw that with Greg Wycliffe and these other people who were down at that protest where Antifa shut it down in Toronto. They were just asking, do you know what anti-fascism is, or do you know what fascism is? And none of them can explain it, but yet everyone can give a clear definition of what communism is. Isn't that interesting?
And who a Nazi is. But the same people that don't know what fascism or can't define it also can't define what a woman is. So, they have some troubles, don't they? Can you hang on for a bit? We're going to jump over to our private area, maybe get another 10 minutes out of you as we wrap up the public side of things.
Yeah, for sure.
Great.
Awesome. So hang on. We're just going to end the public side and we'll be right with you. Thanks, Jason. All right. Well, that's your cue, everybody. Go ahead and join The Levine Show at thelevineshow.com to become a member on our local side of things. We're going to go over there and hang out with them a bit more, get a little bit more candid, maybe drop into this where all these strings are leading and who are the puppet masters around some of this stuff. Antifa is a violent wing of what's going on, but there's also some other sides where they control the media, the medical information, the legal systems, the governments. There's a lot more to this. So we're definitely going to have Jason back again at some point in the future, because this conversation is not going away. Our political class is not taking it seriously.
But otherwise, hope everyone has a fantastic weekend, and look forward to see you on Monday.
thank you all for being here. Have a great weekend. And if you're in the Alberta, anywhere in Alberta, get out and vote on Monday, October 20th. And we're likely going to have some more candidates back Monday morning because they want to come on. The other candidates that didn't get on yesterday want to come on. So you can expect some more candidates on election day, and then back to our regular scheduled guests, hopefully.
And life.
Yeah, we got some projects to catch up on. But thank you very much, everybody, for a great week. And tune in tomorrow night. It's going to be 7 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Eastern. Chris Barber is going to join us, and many others. So we're going to be going over the sentencing and having a great conversation there.
Yep.
Thank you very much. God bless.